with Marilyn, I wanted to make the sources quite hard because that's the style of lighting in the 40s and 50s. The only thing I would say about, especially something like Marilyn, and it's very similar for a lot of other films I do, if they're period of course, is that I don't use modern lights. I don't use Kino Flows, even though I love Kino Flows. I try not to use HMIs too much. I use very solid tungsten sources, okay, because the colour temperature works well for skin. I don't know what, when people talk about skin tone, I don't really know what they mean, because it can be so many different things. The most important thing about skin tone is that you represent it the way you think it should be, and when you see it with your eyes, it's translated onto film or digital the way that you've seen it with your eyes. Otherwise it can get messy. But on a purely technical level, generally with Marilyn, I wanted to make the sources quite hard because that's the style of lighting in the 40s and 50s. I used a lot of light and dark, a lot of shade, a lot of shadow, tried to shadow it as much as possible, except when she was on that set, then that set was pretty brightly lit anyway, so I couldn't change it that much. But I tried to use a lot of shade. As soon as they got it away from the actual set within the stage and they were working, I tried to use as much shade as I possibly could. After Marilyn, digital started really started taking hold. So a lot of people expected you with that budget range to embrace the new technology because they thought it was a bit cheaper. Now the thing with, and also it was a new director, so I hadn't worked with Amma before, so I didn't know how many takes she was going to do. It could be a disaster. So shooting on film, with hindsight, we could have shot that movie on film because Amma just doesn't overdo it on the takes.
And we can cut there. Thank you. That was absolutely perfect.
She doesn't get characters doing things over and over and over again for the sake of it when there's not much change between each take. She doesn't do that. She's quite smart in that. She's very smart in that sense, that she'll just rehearse very well. She'll explain what she wants to the actors, and she hires good actors, so they don't need 25 takes to get it right. I mean, I would have preferred shooting on film. I think it would have made it slightly better, for sure. The contrast would have been better, and it would have looked a little bit better, but I don't think it affected the movie. The success of the movie, you know. The lighting was a little bit softer, but it's still light and shade in Belle. There's still quite a lot of light and shade. It's just not as dense. But that's the beauty of film, is that the blacks are just very different. You know, not very different. They are just different to if you shot film in that particular way. You know, unless you flashed it or whatever when you decided you didn't want to have those deep blacks. Inherently, it's a little bit softer as a movie. You know. It's also maybe the subject matter, period. You know, that period I was using painting references because that's what they were. But then the movie's about a reference to a painting. So, do you see what I mean? It doesn't preclude that it doesn't have a range of shadows and using, as I like to do, using light and shade to tell the story. It's just a different method for a different film. So on Marilyn, it was a set of Cooke S5s, which was the first time that those lenses had been used on a feature film in the UK. And so I used them in conjunction with Ingenue zooms, but they're mostly Cooke S5s. And on Belle, it was Cooke S4s. I went back to Cooke S4s because I just didn't need that extra stop of light for a digital production. I just didn't need it. So I went to Cooke S4s. It's just a bit more forgiving, you know. I mean, film was always pretty forgiving, you know. So, but digital, you can see it, so you use different methods of making it a bit more forgiving, so it looks pleasant on people's skin or whatever.